Good afternoon and good morning to those of you dialing in from the West Coast, and thank you for joining us today as we chat about how the appointment economy is changing the banking experience. My name is Alyssa Riddell. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Coconut Software, and I'll be your host during our session. We're going to be joined by Jeremy Saldivar for a chat about how Wacom Educational Credit Union, affectionately known as WECU, have pivoted their operations to maintain their member experience as a direct result of the pandemic and the associate changes to how we bank. But before we get started, I wanted to share a few helpful tips on the webinar platform. You'll be able to change the size of the slides on your screen by dragging the corners of the presentation. Audio comes through your speakers, so make sure that those are turned up high. And we will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so be sure to submit your questions through the Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen. There's also a few resources we've provided that you can download and peruse at your leisure. We're also going to be sending out a survey after the webinar to gather your feedback and help us create future conversations about topics that you find valuable. You'll get a link to the webinar recording at that time. And should you want to share it with your colleagues, I know everyone loves a thrilling webinar. Finally, if you have any technical issues, click on the question mark button at the bottom of the screen and you'll get some assistance there. As mentioned, I run product marketing at Coconut Software, a beautifully designed and powerful to use solution that helps financial institutions who want to improve their customers' digital and physical engagement, a key topic of today's presentation. Our suite of cloud-based solutions provides a way to seamlessly schedule, measure, and manage client, prospect, and staff interactions. Now, if you haven't picked up on the thick Canadian accent yet, I work from Coconut's Toronto office, and we support clients across North America. I'm joined today by Jeremy Saldivar, who's Director of Member Experience at WECU. With 20 years of product development experience in financial services, he's led great teams that have helped guide community banks and credit unions through the most innovative and fast-moving decades of the industry. From cash to chip cards, checks to clicks, and now visit to video appointments, his passion revolves around using technology to help members be the hero of their own financial journey. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining. I know our audience members are really interested to hear how you and WECU have managed the digital transformation as spurred on by COVID-19. So let's dive in, shall we? So Coconut Future Branches recently partnered together to poll 100 bank and credit union executives to gauge how high-level decision-making is shaping branch networks today and, more interestingly, for tomorrow. You'll find both this recent report and another one that we did called the 2020 Future Branches Consumer Study in the resources section of the webinar platform. I highly encourage you to download them both, brew or pour yourself a beverage, and have a read. So in this survey, we asked several questions pertaining to the importance of physical or in-person interactions and digital engagement. We wanted to poll you guys today to see how your answers matched up to those reports' results. So your first polling question of the day: is improving synergies between digital and in-branch customer experience a formal part of your engagement strategy right now? You have three answers: yes, no, but it's important, or no, it's not regarded as important. So I'm going to give you several seconds to actually read through the question and select your answer. If we had the rights to it, I'd be playing the Jeopardy music, but alas, you'll have to have it going on in your head. Okay, another few seconds. All right. So a resounding majority of you have said that yes, it is important and a formal part of your engagement strategy. And I'm extremely pleased to see that no one actually selected no, it's not regarded as important. Okay, so balancing this out with what we actually saw in this report, from the report, we only got 53% saying that they felt it was, they had it, yes, improving the synergies between digital and branch experience was formal and an official part of their engagement strategy. Nearly 30% said no, but folks generally regarded it as important. And almost 20% said no, and it's not regarded as important. So I'm very pleased to see that everyone on this webinar is actually much more prepared and has better synergy than some of the respondents of the survey. It is good to note that the survey was done January through to April, so some of the answers were actually collected prior to much of the COVID organizational changes. So I think really the polling results from you all are probably more reflective of our general outlook, given everything that's changed in the past 6 months. Okay. So we're going to circle back to the implications of those polling results in a moment, but before we do, and forgive me if you've seen this before, I couldn't help myself, it really is so true when it comes to banks and credit unions that we've been chatting with. Digital transformation is not a new concept, and I would be very surprised if your organizations haven't had this as a key strategic pillar in your plans for the past 5 years. The difference in 2020 is that a massive outside threat, taking the form of a tiny virus, has really fast-tracked those transformation plans. I think we all thought we had a bit more time to push along the concept of digital engagements, omni-channel marketing, and seamless technology integration through our internal stakeholder groups. But COVID really made us change much faster than I think many of us were ready for. For many organizations, implementing appointment scheduling solutions and visitor management technology and procedures during the COVID-19 pandemic has actually been seen as a survival tactic, absolutely made necessary by social distancing requirements in your local public health policies. However, as banks and credit unions begin to open the doors back up to the public, one thing's really becoming clear to us. Appointment scheduling, visitor management solutions will actually be key to long-term success for any future customer engagement model. No one really knows how our society and customer expectations will change in the long run, but we can be assured that short-term, your customers, your members, your prospects, and your staff are going to be expecting safe, convenient, and effective ways to work with each other. So in our discussions with our clients in the market in general, we found that financial institutions are reimagining the purpose of their branches and locations. Management teams are asking themselves, what can we do to expand the value and accessibility to help with growth and revenue objectives? How will brick and mortar experiences propel customers through the various buyer journeys? And how to optimize the reopening strategy as we get a better handle on managing COVID, and by extension, how to properly plan workforce capacity to control the labor costs and make sure that your teams are safe and engaged. All said, your customers are increasingly expecting a seamless experience when switching between the convenient digital tools that they use every day and the branch environment that they trust for their most important financial matters. Which leads us to the consideration of how bank and credit union management can help future-proof. And we really believe it comes down to this two-pronged approach. You're going to be hearing me say this over and over again. First, of course, is the reimagining of how you use your branches and locations. But the other is this focus on what we're calling the appointment economy. So you may be asking, Alyssa, what do you actually mean when you say appointment economy? The way that we've been defining it here at Coconut Software is appointment economy is a concept that in a post, or frankly more accurately a current COVID world, we as a society are really defaulting to carving out safe times and spaces by which we can accomplish the things we need to do. The easiest way of doing this in a convenient manner is relying on appointments. And I'm not sure about you, but I have not stepped inside of a grocery store for the better part of 5 months. I shop online through my local grocer's app, then I book an appointment slot to pick up my groceries. And some services we're used to having to book appointments, getting your hair cut, getting an oil change, going to the doctor. But others are new, booking appointment slots at boutiques, car dealerships, and of course, at banks and credit unions. And at Coconut Software, we've really been focused on the emerging appointment economy as banks and credit unions are implementing engagement models that promote that distancing and safety. And at the core of this model is effective and streamlined appointment scheduling solutions that don't act as a gatekeeper, but instead facilitate an enriching relationship between banks, credit unions, and your customers and members. So it goes without saying, of course, that these solutions need to be effortless, integrated with your existing systems, and fail-safe so that no double bookings, reminders, and notifications are headed out for customers, members, and your staff. So this focus on the appointment economy will continue to be spurred and strengthened by your customers. They want to know that there won't be big crowds or long lines, that they'll be able to get in and out with the answers to their questions as conveniently and safely as possible. And for many, it's even better if they don't even have to visit the branch. And here's where that digital transformation piece really comes into play. The question then becomes, how do we provide excellent customer service, drive loyalty, and reach our business objectives through those digital channels? Not only are they convenient, like phone and video appointments, instead of getting dressed, masked, and hand sanitized and then heading out the door for an in-person chat, but these channels also tend to be much less expensive to support. The reason why this needs to be a two-pronged approach, however, as opposed to just transitioning all of your services online, is that according to a Future Branches survey that we did, almost half of respondents state that their customer base is divided between prioritizing physical branches and digital engagements. So for example, 16% felt that all their customers prioritize physical branches, and at the other side of the spectrum, 6% of respondents felt that physical branches were not at all important to their customers. Even us millennials, that flighty, digital-obsessed group, ranked convenient branches as the top factor when considering banking products and retail financial services, according to a 2018 survey by the Bank Administration Institute. Most banking executives realize that both the physical and digital channels of the bank are now operating not exclusively but in tandem. And although banking customers tend to use their mobile devices for everyday transactions, like transferring funds, the bank branch is still the epicenter for high-value transactions. Ideally, banks and credit unions will be able to bridge these two channels to create that seamless banking experience with little friction for customers when they move between digital and physical and then back again. All right, I hope you're ready for polling question number 2. The question is introducing new products, services, and/or capabilities to meet changing consumer behavior post-pandemic a formal part of your engagement strategy right now? Yes, it is part of our strategy for growth. No, but it's important. No, it's not regarded as important. So again, I'll give you a few seconds to reread that, have a look at the answers, and then submit. Okay, a couple more seconds. Excellent. All right. Once again, I'm so pleased. We have a fabulous group of folks on the phone here today. So yes, it is part of our strategy for growth at almost 88%. No, but it's important at 10%. And it looks as though just a couple of people mentioned no, and it's not regarded as important. So from our previous research, once again, understated compared to all of you on the phone, we had just under 50% state yes, it's part of the formal growth strategy, 30% state no, but it's important, and then 20% said that it wasn't important, nor is it part of the growth strategy. Very interesting. In each case, banks are using online capabilities to connect remote consumers and members with branch personnel and improving those in-branch technologies to meet customer preferences. And this indicates that credit union and bank leaders are reimagining the purpose of the in-branch experience, treating it less like a retail outlet and more like a hub for financial activity. So a great example would be having financial advisors and mortgage specialists readily available, whether it's over the phone or video for conferencing or, of course, in branch. That way, if a customer comes in looking to buy a house in the next few months, their advisor is there to help them with what they can afford in terms of budgeting, and the mortgage specialist can very quickly assist them to see what kind of loan terms they'd be offered. And being able to pre-plan and book these appointments ahead of time means that that customer can meet these specialists when it's actually convenient for them. So when we say the appointment economy is driving a digital start to engagement, what we really mean is that your customers and prospects will generally default to engaging with your financial institution digitally first. In the past, folks may have dropped by a branch to complete their tasks, whether it was transactional, like depositing a check, or advisory, like booking time to see an advisor. Now what we're seeing is evidence that customers actually prefer to kickstart their search for an answer to a question by calling in, visiting your website, opening up your mobile app, or responding to an email from one of your staff members. And this is proven by various studies and surveys done by future branches. So for example, in that 2020 consumer study I referenced earlier, it was found that 93% of consumers feel that their bank's website or mobile app suits their needs. And over 3/4 of them feel that it's either extremely important or very important that their bank of choice upgrades their website or app to remain up to date. Similarly, over 50% of consumers prefer a digital banking experience via mobile banking over any other banking experiences. Another interesting set of statistics I wanted to share. Over half the consumers surveyed take less than 10 minutes to do banking activities each week. The question becomes, how can we make it as convenient as possible for these consumers to complete those activities quickly? And with a cost containment frame of mind, how can we service those in and out customers as inexpensively as possible? And the answer, of course, is digital. Using an online self-service solution allows your customers and members to not only select the appropriate associate, whether by name or skill set, but also provide key information ahead of time. Your associate or staff can then review before the meeting and effectively address all of their customer requirements. This not only provides the added benefit of increasing the number of high-value appointments, but also optimizing employee schedules to improve their overall efficiency and productivity. When asked about the benefits of being able to schedule appointments, 72% of survey respondents stated that it was more convenient and saves time. 50% felt it ensures that they could meet with a knowledgeable associate. 44% felt that it meant that their needs and questions were actually addressed during that visit. And just over 40% felt it would eliminate the need for repeat visits. Now, of course, if you're quick at math, you'll realize that in that survey, respondents could select more than one benefit. The convenience is really real, though. I remember back in the fall, my husband and I bought a house, and we were trying to coordinate a meeting with the mortgage specialist at our local branch. We had to actually visit the branch in order to book a future appointment, so strike number one. And then when we showed up for that appointment, after shifting around work and figuring out daycare drop-offs, we actually found that that mortgage specialist we needed to talk to wasn't even at the branch at that day. So all of this hassle and inconvenience could have easily been solved by allowing us to A, book an appointment online in between putting a toddler to bed and cooking dinner, and then B, meeting with the appropriate specialist at a time that was actually convenient for us. So we know that customers want to pre-schedule appointments online for a variety of different reasons. But the most interesting stat I think I found in this entire presentation is just 23% say that that capability exists in their own bank or credit union today. Customers want the flexibility to manage their own banking experience. So it really is unsurprising that 71% say access to self-service tools in the branch are an important part of their physical banking experience. In the same Future Branches report that I keep referencing because I love it, we found that 39% of consumers visit a branch simply to use an ATM, which means that 61% of visitors needed to actually enter the branch. And in a time of social distancing and safety precautions, this really underscores for me the importance of having a way to effectively manage your in-branch traffic. 27% of respondents say that they waited in line to see a bank teller at their last visit. And based on those qualitative responses, long lines are the most prevalent grievances among consumers. When asked about the most difficult thing they experience when visiting a branch, lines, long lines, wait times, and waiting were some of the most popular responses. One way to help reduce teller lines and wait times beyond encouraging the booking of appointments is to make it easy for your customers to self-serve when they actually reach your branch. So once again, demonstrating that two-pronged strategy in a single engagement. So for example, respondents were excited to see personalized interactions within their mobile banking apps, on-demand communications through those same apps, and video tellers and smart ATMs at their next branch visit. However, a significant portion of consumers would also like to see clearly displayed estimated wait times, 30%, advanced scheduling tools for setting meetings with associates, 30%, and interactive signage, about 20%, the next time they visit their local branch. So using a visitor and lobby management solution helps to bridge this digital-physical divide. Either through a tablet or from a greeter, you can manage your visitors easily, checking them into appointments, managing walk-ins, and then clearly displaying those wait times so your staff aren't constantly answering that perennial question, when is it my turn? Another use case we've seen for many of our clients who use this solution, a customer walks into the branch, chats with the greeter, or uses the kiosk to book a walk-in appointment with an advisor, and then they can actually go back and wait in their car. They'll get a notification when the advisor is ready to meet with them. They re-enter the branch, and what that means is that there's no waiting in line, there's no need to take up a teller's time doing simple scheduling, and they're able to maintain safe distancing in the privacy of their own car. It really is the ideal solution. So the chart I'm sharing here was gathered from the same report and showcases that the majority of the individuals prefer a digital experience through a mobile app, followed by branch at almost 30%, and finally a desktop digital experience at 20%. But I think personally the most interesting part of this is that 71% of those same respondents believe it's important to build a relationship with bank personnel. So what you're probably realizing with this combo of stats is that for those transactional, day-to-day type activities, your customers actually love that digital option. But when it comes to those larger, more complex transactions, like buying a house or ideally investing their lottery winnings, your customers want to leverage the expertise and advisory services of your staff in branch. This really does showcase the requirement of the two-pronged approach. And forgive me for beating that dead horse, but I feel very, very strongly about it. So to switch gears back to the actual management of people in your branch, as we're all extremely aware, the social distancing and public health guidelines for maximum occupants in a given space, distance between people while waiting in line, and other policies are probably not going to go away anytime soon, which means that your branches and staff need to have a safe way to control the number of visitors that you have. Using technology to track the number of concurrent appointments, even limiting the number of appointments booked at a time slot to ensure adequate spacing, understanding the busy times at your locations and branches, and then finally leveraging notifications to remind customers of upcoming meetings and when it's safe to approach your location for their appointment, all helps to ensure that you're keeping your staff and your customers safe. All right, the final polling question of today. Does your institution currently use tools like appointment scheduling, lobby or visitor management, callback features, or phone and video meetings? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. I'll give you a few minutes to read that over and select which one works for you. Okay, another couple of seconds. All right. Fantastic. Almost 3/4 of you are using some or hopefully all of these different features. That's fabulous to see. 25% are saying no, and 2% are unsure. So speaking especially to those 25% who aren't, obviously we'd be more than happy to chat with you. So feel free to reach out and let's book some time to see how we can help you with that. So before we switch over to our chat with Jeremy, I just wanted to sort of leave off on this one notion. I really do believe, and us at Coconut would agree, if you go the extra mile in providing really great, helpful service at this incredibly stressful time, then I believe it will have a lasting impact on how your clients, members, and your staff feel about your organization. So before we get Jeremy unmuted and on the line, I just wanted to remind everyone we are going to have a Q&A session right at the end. So if you do have any questions, just feel free to click on the Q&A widget down at the bottom of your screen, submit them, and then we'll get to them in a few minutes. All right, so with that, I'd like to welcome Jeremy. Jeremy, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you spending the time.
Thank you for scheduling this at 10 a.m. Pacific time because my 4 teenagers are still in bed, so I have less likely background noise, so I appreciate the early time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that us folks in the East and Central regions also enjoy booking the West Coasters for 7 a.m. meetings, so I also am glad that we were able to make that work for you as well. So before we get into some of those questions for Jeremy, I just wanted to briefly overview WECU. So WECU is one of Western Washington's largest credit unions, and they've partnered with Coconut Software to offer more streamlined appointment scheduling to their members and non-members as a direct response to the coronavirus outbreak. So with more than 130,000 members and more than $2 billion in assets, WECU has 415 employees, and in 2020, they gave close to $500,000 to various local nonprofits and community groups. Well done. Jeremy, thank you for joining us, and I know I myself am very interested, and I know everyone on the line is as well, to see how you and the team at WECU have been really tackling the challenges of the pandemic and the appointment economy. So let's dig in. Okay, so first question for you. How does WECU consider the branch within your overall customer engagement strategy?
Yeah, things are definitely altering, let's say, with the past few months. But even prior to that, our branches were a central part of our overall channel strategy. With 130,000 members, 90,000 of those members are in a county region that has a total population of 230,000. So we have deep penetration, which then results in high traffic at all of our branches. In my prior banking life, before crossing over to the credit union, that was almost unheard of because we were more of a commercial-focused bank there, and lobbies were a little bit more quiet. But with the amount of members that we have at WECU, branches are paramount in our channel strategy. I do like to give some numbers, so I don't want to. I'm going to be throwing out numbers in this conversation just to give you guys some reference, because I know I've been on the other side of these webinars, and I was like, I want real life examples. So, for example, 54% of our membership, we've been able to poll a lot of our members or survey a lot of our members these last few months. We've gotten tremendous responses. So any numbers that I'm going to share today is from a survey that we've done, we did back in May to gauge a variety of things that we received over 10,000 responses for. So I feel very confident in the numbers that we're sharing. 54% of our members say that they visit our branches monthly, and 17% of them say weekly. Which is interesting, though. Of that 54%, I'm going to throw a lot of percentages. 46% of those visit the lobby, and then it's broken out half and half, 27 and 27 that visit the ATM and drive up. So as you can see, heavily used, and interesting enough, you would think it'd be, the older demographic, but the usage of our branches were identical between these 65 and older to the 18 to 24 demographic. So something that's surprising, but it's definitely something that we're tracking and making sure is part of our strategy moving forward.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you. Thank you for those stats. It is always much more helpful when webinars provide some real life experiences. So thank you. That's great. Okay, so next question we have for you. So previous to implementing Coconut, how was WECU engaging with your members? Did you track appointments? How were you able to sort of see what your staff was doing and how your members were really utilizing your services?
Yeah, so the answer is almost none. So prior to COVID, we had a homemade lobby check-in system. So we were very much first come first serve. So we did not offer appointments, even with all that heavy branch traffic. We'd see a lot of wait times, not only in our teller lines, but also in the meeting with our officers in the branch to talk about new accounts or new loans or so forth. So we had really no visibility into why were people visiting our branches, how long was it taking to serve them, which of our branches were busier with those, non-transaction type of appointments. And so the appointment project was something that we definitely had teed up prior to the pandemic. However, this might sound familiar because I've now implemented 2 appointment systems in my financial services life at 2 different institutions. And at both places, the main worry was not about the customer or the member, but about our own employees. And we're really concerned about being able to manage our calendars, right? So appointments, when we were working on the project, appointments were an afterthought prior to the pandemic. It was more about, we're going to upgrade our lobby check-in system, we're going to work out some of the bugs, we're going to add a queuing board. I don't know if this sounds familiar to anybody on the call, but appointments were going to come later because we really needed to take the time to work it into our culture and give our staff the ability to kind of adjust that way of working with members and opening up their calendars. Well, all of that did an about face as soon as lobbies were closed here in Washington State in the middle of March. Now, all of a sudden, it was a complete 180. Now we were going to implement appointments to be able to safely bring members back into the lobbies to still do those banking transactions and consultative appointments that they needed to do. And I'll tell you what, the staff jumped right in. All those worries about opening up my calendar and I don't know if, what if I'm at lunch and all these things, everybody bought in for the sake of the member and for the sake of servicing our membership. And it was incredible to see the response from our team when this pandemic kind of put our back to the wall and we had to get creative, we had to be innovative, we had to be agile. Things that those words necessarily, you don't say those in the same breath with a credit union, especially a credit union with $2 billion in assets. So that was incredible, and now we're starting to see the benefits of having those appointments moving forward. And so again, I talked about having feedback from the members. I'm going to share some quotes from actual members here. So here's a quote: "Amazed that I could set a same-day appointment, and I was contacted immediately. I've used this service at a big bank as well, but you guys rocked it," end quote. So you love to hear that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Interesting. So I have a bit of a follow-up question, and it's not on the slide, so forgive me. I was really interested when you talked about the I guess, concerns about sort of the culture and how would people feel kind of opening up their calendars. So do you have any suggestions or advice for folks on the phone who may be worried about whether their culture at their credit union or bank could kind of handle this really fundamentally different way of engaging with customers and members?
Yeah, it really is all about transparency in the process internally. We shared early and often the progress of our appointment project with Coconut with the frontline staff. So we kind of did it in layers, right? So we would present to our management team and say, hey, here are the benefits. Here's what the system would look like. We were able to demonstrate, and it was really kind of a own internal drip campaign that we did to get people comfortable with it. So when it actually, when everything kind of hit the fan and we had to implement this fast and furious, they were already kind of green to the idea of, okay, this isn't as scary as I thought. And the other thing that we did, I think that was a little bit unique, was prior to going live, we did a kind of a fun internal contest. So we set everybody up with a system, and we made a branch kind of competition to where we said, okay, you have 3 days to schedule as many appointments as possible for each other. Every appointment that you schedule will be it's going to be an entry into a drawing for a free big lunch that we're going to host and put on a big party for you at your branch, for your full branch. And so it's unlimited. So if you wanted to schedule an appointment, schedule back and forth for each other, 1,000 times in a day, which we saw, then it's go for it. And what we ended up doing is we ended up scheduling, I think, in that 3-day period internally, I think it was something close to 3,000 appointments. So it was a way to train, but also get buy-in into the process. I think that's incredibly important, that your full team feels that they were a part of rolling this out and making it successful, because they're going to provide you the best feedback about what does a real life appointment and interaction with a member look like. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and that's some great suggestions. I know, any sort of software implementation is always it can be a big change management project. So the gamification is absolutely a fantastic technique. So I applaud you. That's wonderful. All right. So next question for you. So as the U.S. started to really social distance, how did WECU change to meet your members' demands?
Yeah, so like I said, going into the pandemic, we were all set to upgrade our fancy iPads in the lobbies to make check-in easier. And our main plan was to roll in appointments maybe 9 to 12 months later. And to do it by business unit. Right? That's another kind of strategy that's worked in the past is, well, let's just roll it out with our commercial banking team first, and then our real estate team, and then the retail team. Kind of again get used to the system and wade in as opposed to cannonball in. I'm not going to say dive. Dive is too strategic. It was a full-on cannonball into the pool when we ended up saying, okay, our members still need to access our services as they're not able to through DriveUp or through our digital channels. So what do we need to do to, again, safely bring people in to the branches to not only protect the membership at large, but our own employees, right? So we wanted to make sure everything is being handled appropriately and given ourselves time to sanitize stations and so forth between appointments. And so, again, we pulled in a full team. It was like I don't use this term lightly, but it was like a war room mentality to where my group, the member experience team, where we oversee product development, channel development, we brought in the digital team, the retail team, the real estate team, the commercial team, and everybody was at the table to say, okay, here's the project. We're trying to get this up and out in 4 weeks. I think it ended up being 4.5, and hats off to Coconut again for helping us with that, having a very thought out and well managed project plan. But I've worked with many projects. Having a great project plan isn't the only piece. You need 2 willing parties, right, on either side that are equally focused on completing this. So Coconut met our kind of level of intensity in getting this rolled out, and that was much appreciated. So like I said, it was 4.5 weeks that we were able to stand this up. That's how great the Coconut system is and adaptable in branding, in syncing with we use Microsoft 365. So all of that connections into the background and getting it linked out into our website, all was able to be completed in that 4.5 weeks. So we responded quickly, and we ended up going live to members with the full appointments on May 27th. So May 27th is when we went full live. We did a few limited appointments the 2 weeks prior to that that we wanted to just kind of try out. But then we went full service for all our appointments May 27th. And so again, to give you some numbers, since May 27th, As of this week, we have now completed 10,600 appointments, which is mind-boggling to us. We're now averaging, every week we saw more and more appointments completed. So it's since May 27th, every week has been more appointments completed than the week before. And we're now averaging over 1,000 appointments completed per week. And just to give you some breakdown, because I know everyone's like, well, what are they coming and do there? You know, what are you doing? So we're still not doing any kind of teller transactions. So that's all still through our drive up. No, deposits, cash withdrawals, anything. So our top appointment right now, 17% of our appointments are new account appointments. So opening new accounts, which is, we do offer online account opening. So it's not like it's not available in another channel, but people are still wanting to come into the branch to open that new account. So 17%. Oddly enough, and this was a surprise to me, the next highest appointment type was 13% notary appointments. So having things notarized was at 13%. Then 9% was instant issuing a debit or credit card. And then the next 9% was any type of account maintenance. And then the one type of teller kind of transaction appointment that we're taking are what we call large cash transactions. So that's not going to, it's not a cash transaction that you're going to hold up the drive-up line for. Maybe it's a business or some other type of, one-time cash deposit. And that makes up 7% of our appointments. So those are the top 5 appointment types: new accounts, notary, instant issue of cards, account maintenance, and large cash transactions. So, and I'm going to end my answer here with another quote from a member. It was better than expected, and I was contacted immediately. Everything was ready when I arrived. It took less than 5 minutes. So that's the other benefit, and I think you alluded to that in one of your slides prior, is our employees have embraced this appointment now concept about, now I know what my day looks like, and I can prepare for the member. And it literally is, when they show up, that as much can be done is already done by the time they sit down. And it's not only, we kind of look at it through a safety lens of like limiting time people are interacting, but at the end of the day, it becomes the best member experience that you could have, is that you purposely thought about my situation. You took the time to have it prepared for me. You're respecting my time of having to come down and find parking and put my mask on and walk in the branch. And we're done, and I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and now I feel like I've completed something with you, WECU. And that's where I had it in my bio, but that's really how we think about member experiences. How do we make the member the hero of their own journey, right? How are they, because they're trying to accomplish a goal, they're trying to overcome something. So how do we enable them to be the hero of that financial journey?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's so true. And, it's just so refreshing when a business or organization or bank or credit union just really respects your time as a consumer and sort of knows about you, so you can get past some of those initial questions, and we can just get to kind of the meat and potatoes of why we're chatting in the first place. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay, so next question. What role will your branches play in a post-pandemic world? So fingers crossed we're going to get over this sooner rather than later. How do you see your branches playing out in that new strategy?
Yeah, this is a very easy question. Thank you. And I'm not going to pretend like I have any expertise or idea about what the future holds. I was one of those guys in March. It was like, oh, this is going to be like 3 weeks. Don't worry about it. We'll be back up and running by the end of April. So I'm not gonna pretend that I have any insight into what's going on here. But what I can share is that again, I don't think this is probably uncommon of people in the call, is we had a lot of big plans heading into March, right? We had working plans of building a new headquarters and, what does that look like to, get all of our administration staff into one place, and how do we adjust our, I'm sure this is a term that gets thrown around a lot, branch transformation, right? And all of that has now been turned upside down, flipped around and sent to Mars on the Tesla rocket. So a great example of that is something up in our corner of the world. Is I'd encourage those on the line when it comes to infrastructure. to read an article, Google an article about REI's headquarters. So up here in Bellevue, Washington, REI, which is an outdoor store up here, very, very successful, prominent store. I don't know how much national, if everybody knows who REI is, but we're very spoiled that we have them here. But they had just completed, literally, I want to say 2 weeks ago, a huge campus, an 8-acre campus in Bellevue, Washington for their team. That senior leadership team just came out and said, we literally the paint has just dried. We are going to now put this campus on the market and sell it. We're completely ripping up our strategy of how we handle our infrastructure. And to me, it was just a sign of just how much change has happened in these last few months. And when you have companies like REI that are taking that approach and saying, like, all right, we know we need to change how we work with our employees, how we work with our customers, and kind of start from scratch, that I listen to that kind of example. So again, as part of my role in member experience, we oversee product development, but also what we call voice of the member, so surveying our members. As part of that survey I referenced, we also asked about COVID and how that's impacted their future outlook of utilizing the branch. So we first asked them how many people have visited the branch so far during the pandemic, and 41% of our membership said that they had visited our branch. 93% of them said they were able to complete their transaction, which is when they visit the branch, which that's the key metric, right? Is if, okay, you came to the branch, even though our lobbies were closed, were you still able to do what you set out to do? And so 93%. So that kind of stat gets us to thinking, what does our branch look like moving forward? If our lobbies are closed and 93% of our members still say they're able to complete their transaction, that should tell us something. And so in kind of looking forward, though, we asked members, well, once the pandemic's done, how do you expect your behavior to change when it comes to going to the branch? 67% said that they plan to use the branch, or actually, sorry, not 67, 75% of our members said they plan to use the branch actually more or the same. So 3/4 of once the pandemic's gone, they're still going to come into the branch. 25% said that either less or not at all. Of those ones that said less or not at all, 11% said they plan to just come use the drive up more. And again, when you look at the age segments of those responses, you would think it'd be the older than 65 that's the ones that are hesitant about going to the branch. But I kid you not, they are the most enthusiastic about returning to the branch. And again, they mirror the 18 to 24. So the 18 to 24 and 65 plus are the ones that plan to continue to come to the branch out of all demographics after the pandemic. It's looking like that Gen X and millennial segments, they're the ones that have been caught up in kind of all of this change of how do I interact, how do I go and conduct my business, I want to be more remote. I know us Gen Xers, we have a kind of cynical attitude to everything, so it's definitely showing in the stats from our members, like, yeah, I'm good, I'll just use my app. And so it's really causing us to have a new conversation about, okay, how do a branches look going forward? So again, I don't have the answer. Right now we're just collecting the data and trying to listen to our members. That's the other thing I would say is that we're really trying to listen to our members to dictate our strategy moving forward, because as a banker for 20 years, I know we always think that we have the answer. I don't know if this happens in other people's project rooms, but every banker is like, well, when I do this, this is how I think about it. Or when my, mom does it, it's always anecdotal. But I really encourage people to just go to your customers, go to your members, and really listen to them. Because I would have never guessed on the 18 to 24 that they mirror the 65 plus and how they interact with our infrastructure. And I'll also say one more stat. Of top 3 reasons that why people bank with WECU, we asked them, most demographics say because we're local, we're trustworthy. The 18 to 24 demographic was the only one that referenced easy access to branches and ATMs, which is incredible. So.
Yeah, it's so helpful having these stats because, you know, as a marketer and a data nerd, I totally echo that we all have to be careful with how we sort of base our assumptions on how we think our members and customers are going to act and behave. Because it definitely, you need to have that research, those surveys, the focus groups to really better understand, you know, what your customers and what your members are needing, because you uncover these really interesting nuggets that, had you not known them before, your strategy may not have been as successful in the execution. So this is also painting a great picture for everyone on the line. If you don't have a robust marketing team, definitely perhaps now is the time to look to invest. Naturally, I'm biased. I always want marketing to have more people and more budget.
Of course.
Okay, so just a couple questions left, and then I do want to have some time for some of the audience questions. They're coming in like crazy. So what's next in the world of member engagement? So I know you've touched on this briefly. I wonder if there's any other additional thoughts you had that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I'll try to go through quicker on these last two questions to leave time. So I apologize, it's a little long-winded in their other questions. So as far as next in the world of member engagement, and really specifically focusing on Coconut and our appointment software, what we're going to leverage, we're right now in the process of internally testing the addition of the Zoom video conference option. So right now, people can choose a phone appointment, or for those particular transactions at the branch, the in-branch appointment. We're going to add that third option next week of our video appointment options. And so really trying to expand that those consultative options for our members, and continue to have that personal connection, even though it's through, you know, video, but doing what we can to continue to help members. The other thing that I would say is moving forward is that we're going to use Coconut to expand and go outside of just, you know, one-off kind of order-taking appointments into more of those seminar slash information type of appointments. So, for example, at the end of July, it was July 29th, apologize, we built an appointment for a real estate webinar. So it was geared toward that first-time home buyer, which we've done in the past. We have what we call education centers here at the credit union, to where we've done, you know, credit card, you know, first-time credit card webinars and stuff like that. This first-time home buyer webinar we've done for years, and typically we have, on a good day, 8 people, 9. So we did this on virtually. We had 150 people attend this webinar. And as a part of that in Coconut, we scheduled we created a service called the First Time Homebuyer Meeting that you can schedule specifically with a loan officer meeting. So not just apply for a mortgage. We wanted to carve out a consultative appointment specifically of first time homebuyer. And since that, we launched it with that survey. So what is this now? 3 weeks. We've had 29 appointments already scheduled through that after that survey. So incredible engagement and capturing of that interest in business in what's really a hot housing market up in our corner of the country.
Yeah,
so more of that, more consultative.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, man, that would have been super helpful had my branch been able to offer something like that when you're buying your first house and freaking out about it. So that's fantastic.
Great.
Wonderful. Okay, last question before we head over. What is one suggestion you'd like to share with the audience? So it doesn't have to be, you know, specific to Coconut. It could be life lessons, Jeremy, if you have a really good one for us. But what's one suggestion you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll keep it in the realm of product development and experience. What I'd say is, and I've kind of said this a few times now, is really truly listen to your members. I know it's something that we, you know, say that, you know, we're member-centric or customer-centric or we're service-oriented, but you really need to go into the trenches in user groups, focus groups, secret shop, any way you can get your customers to give you that feedback. And you have you have big promoters and champions in your customer and member base. They want to give you feedback. They love your organization, and they want to do anything they can to help it succeed, because there's a good group that's just emotionally tied to what you do for them on a day-to-day basis. So definitely leverage that. And the acronym that I use, it seems very basic and kind of common sense. I use the LIAM acronym, and maybe people say, I didn't make it up. It's just that LIAM is listen, interpret, act, and monitor or measure. And I apply it to every development effort or experience effort that I have. So it starts with listening to members, interpreting what they're telling you, then act on it. That's huge. Don't just listen and be like, thanks for the feedback. You got to reinforce with them that, hey, you told me this and now we're doing it. And then monitor the progress. So an example I'll give, a Coconut example, is we launched day one a survey that's automatically sent to a member once they complete an appointment in Coconut. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback. For those that are familiar with NPS, our normal relationship NPS is averaged around 65 to 67, which is great. It's great for credit. It's a great credit NPS score. Our NPS for specifically our members that have completed appointments so far, 86, which is incredible. So 86. Wow. So that's just a reassurance that we're doing something right. And part of that, and so of the act and measure, one of the first few feedbacks that we got was, my appointment didn't start on time. And so we're like, what is going on here? And so what we found out in digging into that is that the notifications that were being sent weren't clear enough as to what the member should do when they come up to the branch, because they can't just walk in, right? And some of our branches, we can't really see if somebody is at the door and if they're knocking. And so people would say, like, I waited in my car for like 10 minutes. I didn't know what to do. How do I get in there? So working with Coconut again, and again, this isn't planned, but Coconut's been great. But we went back to Coconut and said, hey, can we update what the text message says when they check into their appointment? Yeah, no problem. So we were able to fix that immediately and saw an immediate increase in our satisfaction scores and our NPS scores as soon as we were able to do that. So LIAM. If you can write that down and then practice it, that's the advice I'd give.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've actually written it down.
Quote. Sorry, last quote from a member I just want to share to wrap it up. The online appointment system is wonderful. Even if we were not in the circumstances that we're in, this is fire. And I don't know, I think that's what is that, a Gen Z word? This is fire. So I had to run it by my teenagers. So that was praise. It was praise I heard. So that's what I'll end it on.
Fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. And we have had actually quite a few compliments, Jeremy, where folks are saying, you know, thank goodness Jeremy's giving us some of this great data. So this has been very, very helpful. So to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to ask one question from the Q&A, but I want to assure everyone, for all the folks that sent in questions, and there are a lot, we are actually going to respond to you directly and individually with the answers to these questions. We're also going to take all the questions and actually package it up into a frequently asked questions document from this webinar. We'll share that out to everyone who participated today. So if you didn't get your question answered, rest assured we'll get back to you, and then we're also going to share them with the larger group because there's all sorts of good learnings in there for sure. Okay, so final question for you, Jeremy. Has the appointment approach had an impact on your member growth strategy? What kind of trending are you seeing in new members by channel?
That's a great question, and let me just quickly apologize for taking too much time and not leaving for time for those other questions. But yes, the implementation of the appointment system has now given us one more tool as we look to not only grow our membership but expand our footprint. So we were kind of limited in our thinking of how do we reach these new members, and again, with being hesitant before COVID of rolling out appointments, we have already deployed appointment links in all of our marketing since then. So any type of marketing for new credit cards, new mortgage, the call to action is no longer visit this site to learn more information. The call to action is now make an appointment. And we're seeing not only a huge lift from those marketing messages, but also, quick plug for Coconut, the Google reserve. So people that are doing organic searches for WECU or banking, when Google shows up as WECU, you can see immediately within the Google page to schedule an appointment. I was blown away by how many appointments we've gotten through Google so far. And I think I might be able to tell you, because again, innovative doesn't usually align with credit union. So of those, we have had organic scheduled appointments through Google, 254 Google made appointments, which again, I didn't expect any. So that was incredible. So yes, it's definitely now a part of our growth strategy moving forward, and it has had an impact in these few weeks already.
Wonderful. Well, it's fantastic. So we're at 2 p.m. and Jeremy, please don't apologize. I think there's just so much goodness in your answers, and I know I've been scribbling furiously away because I'm learning stuff that I want to apply with my team as well. So for folks on the line, again, we're going to have a look at the questions. We'll get back to you individually. Stay tuned. 24 hours after this webinar is concluded, you'll get a link to actually listen to the recording. You can share that. Of course, download the resources we've provided to you, and please be sure to enter in your feedback on that survey. We just chatted about how important it is to listen, so here I am listening. I'd love to hear back from you. So thank you once again, everyone. Jeremy, I think I owe you a beer after this conversation, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your Thursday. Take care.
Thank you.